My name is Ethan Vance, and when I woke up on a twin mattress that felt like a slab of concrete, staring at a ceiling fan that probably hadn't been updated since the 70s, my first thought was that this had to be some kind of cosmic joke. 1 second, I was a corporate drone, grinding away at my desk for 72 straight hours, fueled by caffeine and desperation to meet my KPIs and make my mortgage payments. The next, I'd earned the distinct honor of dropping dead from exhaustion. And now, not only was I alive again, but I was inhabiting a body that was a complete stranger to me. A body that was 6 feet tall, pushing 250 pounds, and built like a propane tank. According to the new set of memories that had been downloaded into my brain, I was now a background character. Not even a supporting role, more like a piece of the scenery, in a trashy billionaire romance novel called The Queen's Contract Lover. My name, in this world, was also Ethan Vance, son of Maria Vance, a cafeteria lady at Muir Enterprises. Just a fat kid, a name mentioned exactly once in the entire book. And the world I was now stuck in was the world of that novel. A universe overflowing with ruthless CEOs, unforgettable first loves, cheap stand-ins, and two-faced sycophants. A total soap opera. I was silent. For a full 30 minutes, I just lay there and processed. Then, with a monumental effort, I rolled out of bed. I walked over to the old, battered wardrobe that had a full-length mirror on the door and stared at the reflection of a doughy, good-natured-looking young man whose features were squished together by excess weight. And in that moment, I made the first and most important life plan of my new existence. First, lose the weight. Second, hit the books. Third, and this was the big one, avoid the main plot of this novel at all costs. That meant staying 1,000,000 miles away from the walking hurricane at its center, a woman named Isabel Muir. I would be a quiet, anonymous face in the crowd, someone who could live to see the final chapter. After all, in the world of the rich and powerful, even the spectators can get caught in the crossfire. My mother, Maria Vance, was a proud server in the Muir Enterprises cafeteria. Her life was simple and honest. Her biggest dream was for me to be happy and healthy, find a good job, marry a nice girl, and live a quiet, stable life. So, when I told her I was going to lose weight and start an online coding boot camp at night, the look on her weathered face was a complicated mix of pride and worry. As she piled a mountain of her homemade pot roast onto my plate, the gravy glistening under the kitchen light, she said in her thick Queen's accent, "Ethan, what are you talking about? Losing weight? We got plenty of food. Being healthy is what's important. And this computer stuff, I don't get it, but if you like it, you do it. Just don't work yourself to death, you hear me?" I looked at the rich, tender piece of meat swimming in gravy, then at my mom's loving, concerned eyes. A wave of warmth and determination washed over me. "Don't worry, Mom. I'm not just going to lose weight. I'm going to get ripped. I'm talking a six-pack, V-cut abs, the whole deal. And I'm not just going to learn to code. I'm going to get certifications, maybe think about grad school. I'm going to be a man who changes his destiny with his mind. As for everything you're worried about, I got it under control. I promise you, I will not, under any circumstances, get involved with that corporate stormbringer of a CEO. I'm just going to use the company's free gym and the proximity to the New York Public Library to better myself. Then, before the plot inevitably goes off the rails, I'm taking you with me, and we're going to get rich on the down low." I shoveled a forkful of mashed potatoes into my mouth, giving her my most harmless and obedient smile. "I know, Mom. I won't overdo it. And this pot roast? It's amazing." Just as I was mapping out my grand strategy for a quiet life of self-improvement, the main plot of this world officially kicked off. Isabel Muir, the iron-fisted CEO of Muir Enterprises and the undisputed queen of this story, had been reborn. She had returned from a desperate, rain-slicked night where she was betrayed by the two men in her life. Her first love, the scumbag Julian Croft, and his look-alike, the equally scummy Leo Kane. In that life, their betrayal led to her company's bankruptcy and the ruin of her family. Now, she was back 3 years in the past, on the very day she was originally supposed to welcome the stand-in, Leo Kane, into her penthouse. In her previous life, tormented by her love and hatred for Julian Croft, she found a poor college student, Leo Kane, who bore a striking resemblance to him. She'd given him a 3-year contract to play the part of her lover, a substitute for the man she couldn't have. She thought she could use him to get her revenge, to numb her own heart. What she didn't realize was that the harmless little rabbit she'd pulled from the gutter was actually a manipulative, cold-blooded snake. He used a masterful performance of victimhood to win her trust and sympathy while secretly conspiring with her corporate rivals and the very man he was supposed to be a stand-in for. When she was at her most vulnerable, he delivered the killing blow. But now, Isabel Muir had clawed her way back from hell, her soul forged in rage and a thirst for vengeance. She stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of her vast, almost empty office, looking down at the beat-up used car that belonged to Leo Kane. Her eyes were as cold as a Siberian winter. In her past life, at this very moment, she had personally welcomed this man into her world, planting the first bomb that would lead to her own destruction. This time, she picked up the intercom, her voice devoid of any warmth. "Send 2 men from security up to my office. I want the man downstairs, Leo Kane, and all of his belongings thrown out. Add him to the permanent blacklist for Muir Enterprises. I don't want to see his face in this city ever again." On the other end of the line, her chief of staff stammered in shock. Ms. Muir, what about the contract?" Isabel picked up the absurd document she had drafted herself and slowly tore it into tiny pieces. "There is no contract. There never was." As someone whose only goal was to stay away from the plot, I was, of course, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in the CEO's office. All I knew was that when my mom came home from work that afternoon, she had the giddy expression of someone who had just overheard the juiciest gossip of the century. While taking off her shoes, she whispered conspiratorially to my dad and me, "You guys will not believe what happened at the office today. You know that handsome college kid everyone was saying Ms. Muir was going to hire on a special retainer? Security dragged him out. They literally threw him and his suitcase onto the street like a bag of trash. Word is he crossed Ms. Muir and has been blacklisted for life. TSK. Such a shame, with a handsome face like that." I was in the middle of a set of push-ups in the living room. I paused. Leo Kane. Alarm bells started screaming in my head. Isn't he supposed to be the main male lead? Sure, he's a total scumbag, but he's the one who gets tangled up with a heroine for thousands of pages of drama. How'd he get knocked out in the first round? This isn't how the script is supposed to go. Did my tiny little butterfly flap somehow derail the whole hurricane? No, that's impossible. All I've done for the past few days is eat and sleep. I haven't even set foot inside the main building. How could I have influenced the CEO? So, did the author release a revised edition? Or is the plot of this world different from the book I read? Whatever. It doesn't matter. The main guy getting kicked to the curb is great news for me. One less major character means one less risk of the plot exploding in my face. All I, Ethan Vance, want to do is quietly lose weight, study, make money, and retire. You gods can fight all you want, just don't drag an innocent mortal like me into it. I let out a long sigh of relief and went back to my push-ups. For the next few months, I lived a life of extreme regularity, a monotonous triangle between 3 points: home, the corporate gym, and the public library. I'd wake up at 5:30 a.m., follow a 30-minute cardio video on my phone, then head to work to eat a high-protein, low-fat breakfast lovingly prepared under my mom's supervision. The morning was for a 2-hour weightlifting session. I went from a newbie who could barely lift an empty barbell to someone who could comfortably bench press 225 pounds. Sweat soaked through my clothes daily, and the ache in my muscles became a constant companion. But every time I saw the increasingly defined silhouette in the mirror and the steadily dropping number on the scale, all the pain and exhaustion felt worthwhile. Afternoons and evenings were for studying. I enrolled in an online coding boot camp, started with the absolute basics of Hello World. The rest of my time was spent at the city library, a vast ocean of knowledge, and I was a dry sponge, desperately soaking up every drop I could. Economics, history, philosophy, literature, I devoured it all. I loved the feeling of my brain being filled to capacity. It made me feel like I was no longer that useless fat kid, but a new Ethan Vance who was slowly getting better, slowly starting to shine. During these months, I paid little attention to the CEO. I only caught stray bits of information about her from the gossip my mom and the other cafeteria ladies shared. Hey, did you hear? Ms. Muir has been absolutely ruthless lately. That old project on the west side, the one the company's had for over a decade. She shut down just like that, didn't even hesitate. And the director of sales, Mr. Henderson, fired on the spot for some minor mistake. I know, right? It's like she's a different person. Colder, scarier than before. She was always distant, but at least you'd see her smile once in a while. Now, when she looks at you, it feels like her eyes are throwing daggers of ice. I silently ate my boiled chicken breast and broccoli, but a seed of confusion was planted in my mind. This is playing out differently than in the book. I remember the author was a woman writing for a male audience. In that version, the moment the male lead said he didn't love her, the all-powerful CEO would lose all common sense and fall apart. Well, sucks to be an employee at this company, I guess. The damn author must have gotten tired of the criticism and changed the script. As long as the fire doesn't spread to a nobody like me, you all are on your own. I indifferently picked at the brown rice in my bowl, completely unaware that the face emerging from beneath the weight loss, a face that was becoming so handsome it was almost a crime, was getting harder and harder to hide. My first invalid eye contact with Isabel Muir happened on a stormy afternoon. I had just finished my workout at the gym, steam practically rolling off my body. Outside, the sky was black with storm clouds, and thunder rumbled in the distance. My mom texted me to come to the cafeteria, saying she'd save me dinner. I walked with an umbrella into the familiar yet strange employee cafeteria. It was after the dinner rush, so the place was empty except for a few employees working late. When my mom saw me, she immediately brought out my specially prepared health meal: boiled chicken breast, shrimp, a colorful pile of vegetables, and a bowl of mushroom soup made without a drop of oil or salt. I was long accustomed to the blandness. I took the tray, found the most isolated corner to sit in, and pulled a thick copy of Introduction to Algorithms from my backpack. It was the latest beast I was trying to tame. I was mechanically shoveling food into my mouth, my eyes glued to the dense code and formulas that might as well have been written in another language. Just then, I felt a sharp, probing gaze land on me. I instinctively looked up and saw her, the one woman I had been trying to avoid at all costs. Isabel Muir. She was standing at the service counter, not far from me, dressed in an impeccably tailored white pantsuit. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her makeup subtle and perfect. She looked like an ice queen, devoid of all emotion. She was also holding a tray, but on it was just a small bowl of simple broth. Her face was pale, her brow slightly furrowed. She looked like she wasn't feeling well. At that moment, her beautiful, perpetually frosty eyes were staring right at me, or rather at the book in front of me. The usual coldness and distance were gone from her gaze, replaced by a flicker of curiosity I couldn't decipher and a strange sense of weary relaxation. We stared at each other across the empty cafeteria for about 3 seconds. My mind went completely blank. 3 seconds later, I snapped out of it. I immediately ducked my head, burying my face in the thick textbook, pretending nothing had happened, pretending I was just an innocent bystander lost in the world of academia. But inside, my mind was a screaming siren of code, red alerts. Oh my God, what's she doing here? At this hour, shouldn't she be in her multi-million-dollar corner office, plotting world domination? Why is she in this little employee cafeteria drinking broth? Did her stomach problems flare up because her boy toy Leo isn't around to get her meds anymore? No, that's not the point. The point is, she was looking at me. She was definitely looking at me. What was that look? Curiosity? Scrutiny? Has she figured something out? Is she a transmigrated too? Or reborn? These authors and their plot twists. I can't keep up. I'm so screwed. My one advantage, knowing the plot, is about to be blown. Ethan, you idiot. I told you to keep a low profile. Why did you have to lose weight and get in shape? Now you're so handsome the female lead has started to notice you. This is a disaster. I wanted to use the brick-like book in front of me to cover my entire face. On the other side of the room, however, when Isabel Muir saw me duck my head like a startled animal, the deep furrow in her brow slowly smoothed out. The corner of her mouth even curved into a faint smile, one she herself didn't even notice. She didn't look at me again. She just took her broth to a table as far away from me as possible and began to sip it quietly. Her stomach was indeed acting up. A whole afternoon spent battling the old dinosaurs on the board of directors had left her exhausted. She had just wanted to grab a little something to eat, never expecting to see such an interesting scene. A young man, more handsome than any movie star she'd ever seen, sitting alone in a corner of the empty cafeteria, eating a meal blander than her own, and reading a technical book that gave her a headache just by looking at the cover. And then, after seeing her, he had that adorably panicked reaction. In this gray world full of conspiracy, calculation, and hatred, such a clean, focused, and youthful image gave her heart. A heart already weary and scorched by the flames of revenge. A strange, long-lost sense of peace and healing. She had no idea who I was. She just thought this handsome guy who seemed a little goofy was interesting. Julian Croft, the first love scumbag, was back in the country. The news hit the high society circles of New York City and Muir Enterprises like a depth charge, causing massive waves. As a low-level nobody who paid no attention to the outside world and only wanted to lift weights and read books, my source for this information was, as always, my mom's mouth, which was more reliable than any news station. That day at lunch, I went to the cafeteria, as usual. After giving me a plate of boiled everything that was cleaner than my conscience, my mom leaned in and whispered in an excited, gossipy tone, "Hey, Ethan, did you hear? That ex-boyfriend, the one who hurt Ms. Muir the most, the one with the last name Croft? He's back. I heard he started his own investment firm and is a really big deal now. This morning, he pulled up to the office in a flashy sports car with 999 roses, demanding to see Ms. Muir. The whole scene, I'm telling you, it was like something out of a movie." I quietly sprinkled some black pepper on my broccoli. I felt nothing. In fact, I almost wanted to laugh. Here we go. He's finally here. The final boss of the original novel, the most powerful and also the slimiest, has made his grand entrance. And what an entrance! Just as flashy and self-important as ever. Does he really think he's the same guy from 3 years ago, the one that made the heroine's world turn? He has no idea that the Isabel Muir of today is not that same girl blinded by love. The woman he's dealing with now is a career-driven queen who has completely deviated from the original script. If she were the same love-struck fool, she wouldn't have kicked out the stand-in. Those aren't roses he's holding. That's a one-way ticket to the crematorium. Seeing my lack of reaction, my mom nudged me with her elbow. "Hey, do you think Ms. Muir will see him?" "I don't think so. Our Ms. Muir isn't that little girl from 3 years ago. She's tough as nails now." I nodded in agreement, picking at my brown rice, and silently lit a candle in my mind for the disaster that was about to befall that scumbag. See him? No way. Our queen is probably sitting in her corner office right now, watching him perform his little one-man show on the security cameras downstairs like he's a clown. And I bet you, in less than 10 minutes, company security will be escorting him out like they're taking out the trash. This feels more like one of those gender-swapped CEO novels now. The standard playbook for that genre is, if you want to completely sever ties, the first step is to utterly crush your ex's ego when he comes crawling back. Make him understand that the times have changed. Sure enough, before I had even finished my lunch, I heard a commotion from outside the cafeteria. A few young women from the admin department who had just come from downstairs were huddled together, chattering excitedly. "Oh my God, did you see that? It was so satisfying." The security chief, Wong, and like 7 or 8 of his guys surrounded that Croft guy. You could practically see the word scram written on Wong's face. He said Ms. Muir gave the order that she never wanted to see him again in her life. The guy's face turned green. He ended up throwing the flowers in the trash can and speeding off. Ha ha ha, that was awesome. Listening to this play out exactly as I had predicted, I felt an unprecedented sense of peace, even a little pride. See, as long as I stay in my corner, the plot of this world will proceed along its proper track. Whether it deviates from the book or not, all I need to do is be a quiet spectator. My direct confrontation with Julian Croft happened suddenly and bizarrely. That afternoon, as usual, I was heading to the public library to return some books. As I walked toward the entrance of the Muir Enterprises building, I saw him, the ghost that wouldn't go away. Julian Croft. He wasn't in his flashy sports car today, nor was he holding a ridiculous bouquet of roses. He had changed into a casual but obviously expensive suit and was leaning against the door of his black Bentley. His hair was perfectly styled, and he wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, giving him an air of sophisticated melancholy. Clearly, after yesterday's full frontal assault failed, he had switched to the pity me strategy. He wasn't trying to force his way in anymore. He just waited quietly by the entrance, using his deeply emotional, abandoned by the world, look to garner sympathy from passing employees, trying to put pressure on the iron-hearted woman upstairs. I had to admit, the look was effective. Many female employees walking by were pointing and whispering, their eyes filled with a maternal sort of pity. I snorted in disdain. Keep acting. You really deserve an Oscar for this performance. Look at that gaze, the slight downturn of his lips, the sad profile as he gazes up at the Mirror Enterprises logo at a perfect 45-degree angle. Every single detail was meticulously calculated. He wanted everyone to see what a devoted, persistent man Julian Croft was, thereby highlighting how cold and heartless Isabel Muir was in comparison. A brilliant, bloodless move of public opinion manipulation. Very impressive. I gave him a mental round of applause for his shamelessness and prepared to walk past him without making eye contact. All I wanted was to return my books. But then, the unexpected happened again. Just as I was about to pass him, he must have been trying to adjust into a more tragic-looking pose, and he shifted his foot, stepping directly into my path. I stopped. He paused, startled, and turned to look at me. Then his brow furrowed. I knew why he was frowning, because my face, now that I'd lost the weight, was so unfairly handsome that it was almost aggressive. Especially when standing next to him, another man famous for his looks, the contrast was brutal. He was the kind of handsome that was carefully curated and commercial, the kind that needed designer suits, limited edition watches, and expensive cologne to complete the picture. I was different. I was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans, and the only scent on me was the faint smell of soap from my post-workout shower. I didn't need any props. My handsomeness was clean, fresh, youthful, and completely unself-conscious. Pitted against his calculated version, it was a total knockout. I could clearly hear the gasps from the female employees who had just been pitying him. I could also feel the hostility and annoyance that flared in his eyes. The instinctive animosity of a man who feels his own prized territory has been effortlessly conquered by another. He looked me up and down, his eyes critical and dismissive. Finally, he spoke, his voice dripping with a sense of superiority. You new here? What apartment? Don't you know you can't just stand around here? He clearly mistook me for some clueless intern and was trying to use his CEO's ex-boyfriend's status to put me in my place. I looked at his face, which screamed, "I'm better than you," and felt nothing. Oh, so he's angry and embarrassed? Posed here for half an hour only to have some random passerby steal his thunder. Feeling a little insecure, are we? Trying to take it out on me to reassert your dominance? How childish. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I just met his gaze calmly and stated in a flat, emotionless tone, "Dude, you're blocking my way to the library." Without waiting for a reaction, I walked around his expensive Bentley and headed across the street towards the library, backpack slung over my shoulder, not looking back. I left Julian Croft frozen in place, his handsome face a kaleidoscope of colors, shifting between green and white. And this entire scene, by a stroke of pure coincidence, was witnessed by the woman in the top-floor office who was observing the situation downstairs through a pair of binoculars. Isabel Muir lowered the binoculars. She watched the tall, clean-cut figure disappearing across the crosswalk, then glanced at the man by the car, his face contorted in anger, the man she once loved to her very bones. For the first time, a look of genuine curiosity appeared in her icy eyes. She picked up her intercom and dialed her chief of staff. "Anna, I need you to run a check on someone." Yes, the young man in the white t-shirt who just walked out of the building. "I want his complete file. 5 minutes." Anna was, as always, incredibly efficient. In less than 5 minutes, a full due diligence report on me was sitting on Isabel Muir's desk. When Isabel saw my name and identity on the report, her perennially frozen expression finally showed a crack. Ethan Vance? The cafeteria Lady Maria's son? She picked up the file and looked at the 2 photos attached. One was of me from 6 months ago, round-faced with a double chin, a simple and honest smile on my face, the number on the scale reading 250 pounds. The other was a snapshot from the company's security gate system from last week. A chiseled jawline, sharp features, and clear, distant eyes, the number on the scale now 185 pounds. If it weren't for the faint resemblance in the eyes and brow line, Isabel would never have believed they were the same person. The amount of willpower and self-discipline it would take for someone to lose 65 pounds in just 6 months, to transform from an unremarkable chubby kid into a stunningly handsome man who could make even Julian Croft feel insecure, was frankly terrifying. What she found even more incredible was that after this stunning transformation, Ethan Vance hadn't started flaunting his new looks or soaking up the attention like other newly handsome men. Instead, he had become even more low-key. According to Anna's report, for the past 6 months, he had gone almost nowhere except the gym and the library. His life was so simple it was almost monastic. He was like a hermit living in the middle of a bustling city, completely uninterested in the fame, temptation, and intrigue that defined Muir Enterprises. He just wanted to live his own quiet life. Isabel looked at the file in her hands and was silent for a long time. Since her rebirth, her mind had been consumed by hatred and calculation. Every person she saw, every event that happened, she would subconsciously analyze for its potential benefits, drawbacks, and hidden motives. She saw the world in shades of gray, where everyone was just a pawn moving for their own gain. But now, Ethan Vance had appeared, an anomaly, someone she had never encountered in either of her lives, someone who defied classification. He was clean, focused, disciplined, and possessed a sense of detachment that was completely out of place in this world. He was like a sudden ray of clean light that had pierced through the darkness of her scheming, vengeful existence. Isabel put down the report and walked to the window. She looked across the street at the quiet public library, and the curiosity in her icy eyes deepened. For the first time, she had developed a profound interest in something that had nothing to do with revenge. Of course, I had no idea I was now on the radar of the company's top boss. I was still blissfully lost in my disciplined and fulfilling life of lying low, until a series of extremely strange coincidences started happening. The first coincidence took place at the gym. That afternoon, I was sweating out on the treadmill as usual, listening to an online economics lecture through my headphones. Just as I was about to doze off from boredom, someone got on the treadmill that had been empty right next to me. I glanced over instinctively, and my legs almost gave out, nearly sending me flying off the back of the machine. Isabel Muir. What was she doing here? She was wearing a sleek black workout outfit that hugged her perfect figure, showcasing every curve. Her face was free of makeup, yet she was 100 times more beautiful than any of the perfectly made-up office workers in the building. She saw me too, and even gave me a completely natural nod as a greeting. Then she put in her own headphones, stared straight ahead, and started running. I was completely stunned. My brain just shut down. What the hell is the Demon Queen doing here? Isn't she supposed to be so busy that her bathroom breaks are timed to the second? How does she have time to come to this little employee gym to run? Is it because she's been so stressed out from demolishing scumbags lately that she needs to blow off steam? No, that's not the point. The point is, there are dozens of treadmills in this gym. Why did she have to pick the one right next to me? Has she figured me out? Does she know something? Is she here to test me? It felt like I was running next to a walking nuclear weapon. I became hyper-aware of my own breathing, terrified that the powerful aura she radiated would somehow cause me internal injuries. I couldn't hear a single word the professor in my ears was saying about macroeconomics or market equilibrium. All I wanted was to finish this cursed cardio session and escape this nerve-wracking place. After an agonizing hour, I practically leaped off the treadmill and bolted for the locker room without a backward glance. From behind me, I heard Isabel's cool, clear voice tinged with a hint of amusement. "Nice stamina, kid. I like it." I stumbled, nearly face-planting on the floor. If the gym coincidence could be explained away as a fluke, the library coincidence made it impossible for me to keep lying to myself. The next afternoon, I went to the public library as usual, found my regular seat by the window, and pulled out my life's most important textbook, Python for Dummies. Just as I was about to dive into the ocean of knowledge, someone sat down in the empty chair across from me. I glanced up, and my heart plummeted into my stomach. Isabel Muir. Why was she here again? Today she was wearing a chic beige trench coat, her hair down and falling casually over her shoulders. She looked less intimidating than yesterday, more intellectual. She was holding a few thick, English-only financial reports. She saw me, gave me a genuinely friendly little smile, and then looked down to start reading. I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. My inner monologue was a primal scream. She's haunting me. What is she doing? Has she completely locked onto me? Does she really think I'm some kind of corporate spy sent to watch her? Lady, I'm innocent. I don't even know how many departments your company has. I'm just a harmless fat kid. I mean, a handsome guy who wants to pass a basic IT certification. Can you please leave me alone? If you keep following me like this, I'm going to call the cops. I felt like every word in my Python for Dummies book was mocking me. Dummies, it seemed to say, you can't even figure out how to shake off one woman's coincidences, and you think you can learn a code? I couldn't read another word. I was fidgeting on edge, feeling like I was sitting on a bed of nails. I could feel her gaze, seemingly fixed on her report, but actually full of probing curiosity and amusement, landing on my face, which was probably turning purple from the strain. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I snapped my book shut with a loud thwack, shoved everything into my backpack as fast as I could, and stood up to flee the suffocating space. Just as I passed her, her cool, clear voice, tinged with a hint of confusion, floated up. Leaving so soon? Did you figure out that problem on recursive functions? My knees went weak. I almost fell to the ground right there. Ethan Vance, feeling like I was being driven insane by this bizarrely behaving CEO, decided to go into hiding. If she went to the gym, I stayed home and practiced handstands against the wall. If she went to the library, I went to the little community reading room downstairs to read pamphlets on senior citizen health. I refused to believe that a man whose only goal was to lie low couldn't evade one busy CEO. As it turned out, I was very naive. I had underestimated the determination of a woman who was written to be an obsessive protagonist, and I had underestimated the power of capital. The time came for the company's huge annual gala, held at the most luxurious five-star hotel in New York City. As the son of a cafeteria worker, this event should have had nothing to do with me. But my mom, as an exemplary employee representative from the cafeteria, was given a +1 to the feast. So she dragged me along. In her words, Ethan, you need to see the world. The food at these places is amazing. You can't just eat that tasteless chicken breast every day. I couldn't argue with her. I put on the only decent outfit I owned, a white button-down shirt and a pair of slacks, and went with her. The gala was as extravagant as expected. Everywhere I looked, there were impeccably dressed, successful people, champagne towers, and gourmet food I had only ever seen on TV. I had no interest in any of it. I just wanted to find a quiet corner and wait for it to be over. But my mom had other plans. She pulled me around, proudly showing me off to her cafeteria colleagues. Look, everyone, this is my son, Ethan. Doesn't he look sharp? I was surrounded by a circle of women with an average age of over 50, a polite but strained smile plastered on my face. Just then, the lights in the hall dimmed. A single spotlight hit the center of the stage, and Isabel Muir walked out, wearing a stunning silver-white custom-made evening gown. She looked like a true queen, noble, cold, and radiant. The entire hall fell silent, every eye fixed on her. I instinctively shrank back into the crowd, trying to make myself invisible. But what's meant to be will be. Just as Isabel finished her official, generic opening speech and was about to declare the gala officially started, the unexpected happened. Two men I wanted to see least in the world, Julian Croft and Leo Kane, appeared together in the banquet hall. They were clearly uninvited. They flanked the stage, approaching Isabel from both sides, malicious smiles on their faces. Isabel, Julian said first, his voice low but carried throughout the hall by the microphone. Have we had some kind of misunderstanding? Why have you been avoiding me? Leo Kane, meanwhile, started his signature pity party act, his eyes red-rimmed as he looked at Isabel. Ms. Muir, I know I did a lot of things wrong, but you can't just write me off like this. At least give me a chance to explain. The two men worked in tandem, clearly trying to use the public setting in front of all the company's employees to force Isabel's hand. The guests were stunned. What was this? The CEO's ex and ex-lover crashing the party together? This was more drama than they could have hoped for. On stage, Isabel looked at the two men she hated most from her past life, her face devoid of panic, only showing a bone-deep chill. Just as she was about to have security throw the two clowns out, something even more dramatic happened. Someone in the crowd let out a cry, and then a glass of red wine, accidentally knocked over by someone, went flying straight towards the queen on the stage in her pure white gown. The crimson liquid cut a horrifying arc through the air under the bright lights. Everyone froze. At that moment, my mom had dragged me over to the dessert table to help arrange some pastries. I was very close to the stage, close enough to see the glass of wine soaring towards Isabel. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe it was a man's basic instinct to protect the vulnerable, or maybe it was the damn corporate drone DNA ingrained in me that screamed, "Don't let the boss get hurt." In any case, my body moved before my brain could. Without a second thought, I lunged forward, grabbed the still frozen woman, pulled her behind me, and used my own body as a shield. There was a splash. The cold, sticky red wine soaked my cheap white shirt. The entire hall was dead silent. Every single spotlight swiveled and locked onto me. My drenched shirt clung to my body, outlining the chest and abdominal muscles I had worked so hard to build over the last 6 months. Under the bright lights, the definition was incredibly clear and sexy. The entire company saw it. They saw a stranger, a shockingly handsome young man, holding their high and mighty, untouchable queen in a fiercely protective embrace. And the woman in my arms, Isabel Muir, was pressed against my chest. She could clearly hear the frantic, hammering beat of my heart, smell the clean, simple scent of soap on my skin, and feel the unprecedented sense of security from my strong, powerful arms. She slowly lifted her head and looked at my face, so close to hers, my expression a mixture of panic and bewilderment. Her heart, which she thought would never beat for anything but revenge, skipped a beat and then started to race. And I, looking at the two scumbags who were completely dumbfounded by my appearance, feeling the soft body of the woman in my arms, and hearing the gasp from the audience below, felt only one thing: utter despair. It's over. It's all over. The whole company saw me holding the Demon Queen. Tomorrow, will my picture be on the front page of the company intranet? The headline: Cafeteria worker's son rushes to the rescue. Is this the CEO's mysterious new lover? If my mom sees that, she'll break my legs with her giant soup ladle. My quiet, under-the-radar life as a background character has, on this cursed night, officially come to an end. The fallout from the gala fiasco was even more explosive than I had imagined. The next day, the name Ethan Vance spread through Muir Enterprises like wildfire. My picture was, indeed, on the front page of the company intranet, and the headline was even more sensational than I'd predicted. A hero's rescue. Mysterious hunk Shield CEO. Is a new romance brewing at Muir Enterprises? Beneath, it was a high-resolution photo. My soaked white shirt clearly outlined my muscles, and in my arms, Isabel Muir was looking up at me with an incredibly complex expression, a mix of shock, curiosity, and a hint of tenderness even she probably wasn't aware of. The moment the picture was posted, the intranet server nearly crashed. The comments section exploded with thousands of messages. OMG, who is this guy? He's gorgeous. There are no bad angles on that face. That body, that face, that protective energy. I'm dead. I declare him my new obsession. Does anyone have his contact info? I'll pay good money. I want to have his babies. Get in line, sister. Didn't you see who he's holding? This is a man who dares to touch the queen herself. Wait, I think I know him. Isn't that Maria's son from the cafeteria? Ethan? The one who used to be a little chubby. What? That's him. No way. When did he get so hot? I can confirm. It's him. I saw him in the gym a few days ago. He's even better looking in person. I stared at the scrolling comments, my heart a dead weight in my chest. I felt like a lab rat, stripped bare and put on display for thousands of curious, gossiping eyes to scrutinize. My mom's reaction was about what I expected. She didn't break my legs with a ladle. Instead, she brandished her phone at me, pointing at the picture of me and Isabel in our passionate embrace, and interrogated me like a criminal. Ethan, you tell me the truth right now. What is going on between you and Ms. Muir? When did this happen? Why didn't I know anything about it? I looked at my mom's face, which was beaming within my son finally made it kind of excitement, and I was speechless. What could I say? That I was just an unlucky bystander who got sucked into the main plot? That my relationship with her all-powerful CEO was purer than boiled broccoli? Would she even believe me? All I could do was repeat, over and over, "Mom, it's not what you think. There's nothing going on. It was just an accident." But my explanation was pathetic and weak in the face of that dramatic storytelling photograph. Just as I was about to have a complete mental breakdown from the company-wide gossip and my mom's daily interrogations, the woman at the center of the storm finally made her move. She summoned me to her office. It was my first time inside the legendary top-floor CEO's office. It was huge, minimalist, decorated in a cold black, white, and gray palette, exactly as I'd pictured it from the novel. Isabel Muir sat behind a massive black desk that could have doubled as a bed. She was wearing a red power suit that made her skin look flawless and her presence even more intimidating. She looked at my face, which was a mask of anxiety and tension, and for the first time, a clear, amused smile touched her icy eyes. "Sit." I sat down in the chair opposite her, feeling like a prisoner awaiting his sentence. "Don't be nervous," she said, seeming to notice my discomfort. She even poured me a glass of water herself. "I asked you here today to thank you for helping me out at the gala." I took the glass, completely flustered, and waved my hands frantically. No need to thank me, Ms. Muir. It was my duty." "My duty? My duty, my ass." My brain just short-circuited and my body moved on its own. If I had known it would cause this much trouble, I would have pretended to slip on a piece of cake and played dead on the floor. Isabel saw right through my insincerity, the amusement in her eyes deepening. She got straight to the point. "Ethan, to show my gratitude, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Starting today, you'll be my personal assistant. The salary will be 10 times that of a regular personal assistant. Do you have any questions?" I just froze, my mind going completely blank. "Peer. Personal assistant. The female lead assistant. Isn't that the designated role for the disposable supporting male character? The guy who opens car doors, hands over files, offers a shoulder to cry on when she's sad, gets treated like a rival and crushed by the male lead when he gets jealous, and finally ends up bankrupt and broken, fading out of the story like a chump? No, thank you. All I want is to quietly pass my IT certification exam." Without a second thought, I shot up from my chair, bowed deeply to Isabel, and replied with a resolve I never knew I possessed. "I'm sorry, Ms. Muir. I refuse. I'm not qualified or capable enough for such an important position. I think I'm better suited to helping my mom wash dishes in the cafeteria." And with that, without waiting to see her reaction, I turned and fled her office as if my life depended on it. It was the bravest I had ever been. For the first time in my life, I had said no to my boss. I had stood my ground with an almost righteous defiance and rejected an offer that 99% of the men in the company would have killed for. I fully expected that this act of insubordination would enrage the queen who was used to getting her way. I had already prepared myself for the worst-case scenario, being summoned to HR the next day to collect my final paycheck, then grabbing my mom and skipping town that night. But what happened next was, once again, completely outside my expectations. Isabel didn't fire me. She didn't even contact me again. It was as if she had completely forgotten about the whole incident. The rampant gossip about me in the company, lacking any official follow-up, gradually died down after a few days. Everything went back to normal, as if the heroic rescue at the gala and my dramatic act of defiance in her office had all been just a strange dream. I let out a huge sigh of relief, naively believing that our high and mighty CO had finally lost interest in a stubborn, low-level employee like me. I thought my grand plan to lie low could finally get back on track. But I had forgotten a key characteristic of the CEO archetype. The word give up does not exist in their vocabulary. When I refused the golden opportunity she offered, she simply switched to a more roundabout and far more insidious method of infiltrating my life. And her first point of attack was my one and only weakness, my dear mother, Maria Vance. From that day forward, our CEO, who normally couldn't even be bothered to step foot outside the executive wing, suddenly became an extremely down-to-earth food enthusiast. She began to frequent our small, run-down employee cafeteria, and without fail, she would only queue up at the service window my mom was working. The first day she showed up, the entire cafeteria erupted. Employees were running around, spreading the news like wildfire. "Oh my God, am I seeing things? It's Ms. Muir. Ms. Muir is eating in our cafeteria. Pigs must be flying. I've been with this company for 5 years, and this is the first time I've seen a live Ms. Muir in here. Do you think she's here to inspect our sanitation? Oh God, I think I saw one of the cooks smoking in the kitchen this morning. My mom was so nervous the serving spoon in her hand was shaking. She watched as the powerful woman, flanked by a group of executives, slowly approached her. Her weathered face was a picture of shock and awe. Isabel walked up to the counter, a faint, friendly smile on her face that instantly melted her usual icy aura, making her seem like an approachable older sister. Maria, is it? She asked, her voice cool but pleasant. My mom was so excited she could barely speak. Yes, Ms. Muir, that's me. I'm Maria. What can I get for you? Isabel glanced at the greasy-looking home-style dishes behind the counter and then pointed to the least appetizing one, a plate of stir-fried greens. I'll have that. And a bowl of rice, thank you. That afternoon, every employee in the cafeteria watched from a distance, as if observing a rare animal in a zoo, as the soak sat in a corner, quietly eating a plate of greens and a bowl of rice. Meanwhile, I was hiding in the dishwashing room in the back, peeking through a crack in the door, trembling. My mind was in a state of unprecedented panic. What is she doing? What the hell is she up to? Why would she leave her fancy office and gourmet meals to come to our broken-down cafeteria, where the ventilation hood is on its last legs, to eat stir-fried vegetables? Did she suffer some kind of breakdown? Is she losing her mind? Or is the company really going bankrupt and the CEO has been reduced to reliving the simple life in the employee cafeteria? No, her target is my mom. This is her new strategy. When a direct assault fails, go for the mother-in-law. This woman is terrifying. Her schemes are more complex than the algorithm's textbook I'm trying to read. I feel like my quiet life is about to face a crisis of epic proportions. My premonition soon came true. From that day on, Isabel became a regular at our cafeteria, and every time she came, she would only eat food from my mom's station. One day, it was braised eggplant. After she finished, she made a point of walking up to the counter to tell my mom, "Maria, your cooking is incredible. This eggplant is better than any I've had at a 5-star hotel." The next day, it was scrambled eggs with tomato. "Maria, your timing is perfect. The eggs are so tender. I've never had scrambled eggs this good." The day after, it was some kind of stew. In short, she laid on the compliments thick and fast, never repeating herself. My mom, a simple working woman her whole life, was no match for this sustained, top-tier praise from the highest leader in the company. In less than a week, she was completely won over. The way she looked at Isabel now was warmer than the way she looked at me, her own son. It was as if Isabel was her long-lost daughter. And Isabel's charm offensive didn't stop there. First, she gave my mom a huge exemplary employee bonus for her dedication and culinary excellence. Then, under the guise of caring for employees and their families, she had a pile of high-end supplements and a brand new massage chair delivered to our apartment. Finally, she even promoted my dad, who had been a security guard at the company his whole life, to deputy chief of the security team. After this combined assault, my honest, simple parents were completely bought over by our cunning CEO. They were now Isabel Muir's #1 fans and most loyal supporters. And so, my suffering began. Every night, our dinner table turned into a one-woman praise session for Isabel Muir. My mom, "Ethan, I'm telling you, our Ms. Muir is such a good person, not arrogant at all, and so caring towards us regular folks." My dad, "That's right. It was my first day as deputy chief, and Ms. Muir came to inspect the security department herself. She even patted me on the shoulder and told me to keep up the good work." My mom, "And look at you. Ms. Muir thought so highly of you, wanted to promote you to be her assistant, and you said no. How can you be so ungrateful? I'm telling you, Ethan, if you are ever disrespectful to Ms. Muir again, I will break your legs." I silently shoveled rice into my mouth, crying on the inside. It's over. I'm surrounded by the enemy, trapped behind their lines. I feel like I'm not my mom's real son. Isabel is. Ethan Vance, an innocent young man who just wanted to be a background character, have had all my escape routes cut off. After successfully turning my parents into her allies, Isabel's harassment of me became more and more blatant. To avoid her, I gave up the well-equipped company gym and started working out in the small park in our apartment complex, which had only a few rusty pieces of senior citizen fitness equipment. I thought I'd be safe there. But the next morning, as I was struggling through a set of dips on a parallel bar that was missing one of its hand grips, a black Maybach purred to a stop on the street beside the park. The window rolled down to reveal Isabel's perfectly made-up face. She was holding a cup of coffee and gave me an incredibly innocent, almost surprised smile. "Ethan, what a coincidence. You live in this neighborhood too." I looked at her, then at the ultra-exclusive gated community of mansions behind her, and then back at my own shabby, dated employee housing block. My soul crumbled. Coincidence? Coincidence my ass. Your mansion is a good 10 blocks away from my dumpy apartment building, and you're telling me we're neighbors? Are you insulting my intelligence, or the intelligence of your multi-million-dollar car? And what's with that look? Surprised? More like premeditated. Do you have a GPS tracker on me, or something? I hopped off the bars, a smile on my face that was more pain than a grimace. Yeah, Ms. Muir. What a coincidence. She nodded, then pointed at my arm, where the veins were bulging from the exertion. You're looking good. Keep it up. With that, she rolled up the window and sped away, leaving me shivering in the cold morning air. I felt like a cornered mouse being toyed with by a cat. No matter where I hid, I couldn't escape her grasp. My last sanctuary, the public library, also fell. I thought a CEO as busy as her wouldn't possibly waste her precious time coming to a place like this, a place that smelled of old books and poverty. As it turned out, I had, once again, underestimated her. That afternoon, I was sitting in my usual throne by the window, wrestling with a particularly nasty C++ problem involving polymorphic inheritance, when someone sat down across from me. I didn't even have to look up. Just the scent of her familiar perfume, cool, with an aggressive edge, told me she was here. I pretended not to see her, burying my head even deeper in my book, try to convince myself with sheer mental force. She doesn't exist. She's a hallucination. But the hallucination spoke, her voice low but piercing. Ethan. I had no choice but to look up, my face a mask of weary resignation. Ms. Muir. She didn't look at me again. She placed a stack of all English project proposals on the table, a stack that was even thicker than my textbook, and then casually pushed one of them towards me. You're studying programming, right? I was hoping you could take a look at this. From a professional programmer's perspective, give me some feedback on our company's new app development project. I looked at the proposal in front of me, a sacred text filled with technical jargon and data models I couldn't even begin to understand. Then I looked at her face, which was a perfect picture of sincerity, as if she were genuinely just seeking advice. And finally, my mind just snapped. Professional my left foot. Lady, look closely. The book in my hands is C++ for Dummies, a beginner's guide to quitting. I'm still stuck on Hello World. You're asking a rookie who hasn't even fully grasped what a variable is to give feedback on your company's multi-million-dollar app project? Are you trying to get me to crash your company's servers? Or do you just think I look like some kind of business prodigy who was tragically sidetracked by coding? I'm begging you. Please, let me go. I just want to be a slacker who might not even pass his IT certification exam. I could feel my blood pressure skyrocketing, my temples throbbing. It took every ounce of my willpower to force out a few words through gritted teeth. I'm sorry, Ms. Muir. This is too advanced for me. I don't understand it. Isabel's face fell into an expression of extreme disappointment. She nodded. Is that so? That's a shame. I was hoping you could offer a fresh perspective. With that, she looked down and started reading her own reports, ignoring me completely, as if the whole exchange had been nothing more than a simple technical inquiry. And I, staring at the woman across from me, her profile looking so serious and beautiful in the afternoon sunlight, couldn't read another word of my damn book. My sanctuary, my last refuge, had been conquered by her in a way that I was completely powerless to resist. I decided to run, to completely and utterly escape this suffocating city, to escape this she-devil who wouldn't let me lie low. Once the idea took root, it was impossible to ignore. I started frantically searching for information about studying abroad. The UK, the US, Australia, I was willing to go anywhere that was far enough away from her. In the end, I chose an obscure university in the UK. Its computer science program was decent, the tuition was within my budget, and most importantly, it was far away and completely unremarkable. There's no way, I thought, that a proud, arrogant heiress like Isabel Muir would chase me to some third-rate university on another continent. I spent a week preparing all the application materials. Then late one night, my heart pounding with the thrill of impending freedom, I clicked the submit application button. In that moment, I felt transcendent, as if I could already see myself a year from now, walking across a foreign campus, breathing the air of freedom, no longer having to live in constant fear of being coincidentally ambushed by a bizarrely behaving CEO. The feeling was glorious, but I had once again underestimated the power of capital and the efficiency of a woman with a rebirth cheat code. The very next day, after I submitted my application, Muir Enterprises held an emergency press conference. I heard the news from my mom, whose voice on the phone was so high-pitched with excitement it was about to break. "Ethan, turn on the news. The business channel. Our Ms. Muir. She's done something huge again." Confused, I opened a news website on my computer, and then I saw the headline that was enough to make me drop dead all over again. In bold, black letters, it read, "Muir Enterprises acquires UK's global education group in massive deal, signals major push into international education sector." Beneath the headline was a photo of Isabel Muir at the signing ceremony, shaking hands with the president of the very same British university whose website I had been on just last night. In the photo, she was smiling, triumphant and confident, like a queen who had just won an epic battle. And I, staring at the news, then at the acceptance letter from that university that had just arrived in my email inbox, felt my mind go blank. My hands were shaking, and a cold dread washed over me. I felt like a little bird that had just managed to escape its cage, only to fly headfirst into a much larger, more ornate net that the birdcatcher had prepared all along. Just as I was about to have a heart attack from the sheer shock and despair, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Numbly, I answered. On the other end was the cool, clear voice I never wanted to hear again. It was Isabel. "Mr. Vance," she said, "congratulations. On behalf of Global Education Group and your soon-to-be alma mater, I am pleased to inform you that you have been awarded the exclusive Ethan Vance Full Scholarship. This scholarship will cover all of your tuition, housing, and living expenses during your time in the UK. Upon graduation, you'll be automatically offered a position at the Muir Enterprises UK branch. You can name your title and salary." She paused, her voice laced with an unmistakable note of amusement, like a sly cat that has finally cornered its prey. "So, would you say my investment in your future is thorough enough?" I stood there, holding the phone, motionless. I didn't speak, not because I didn't want to, but because I had lost the ability to. My brain had given up trying to think. My inner monologue had ceased its frantic commentary. All that was left was a vast, desolate sense of defeat. I, Ethan Vance, a transmigrator who just wanted to be a background character, after months of grueling, desperate struggle against the female lead of this world, had been utterly and completely defeated. I looked out the window at the gray sky, and for the first time, felt a profound doubt about my own existence. Did I really travel into this book just to be the male lead for this out-of-character demon queen? Is there any justice in this world? Is there any law? After that experience of utter career suicide and social implosion in her office, I finally surrendered. I gave up all my pointless resistance because I had finally accepted a harsh reality. In the face of absolute capital power, my pathetic little dream of lying low was a complete joke. Rather than being tortured by her in a variety of unpredictable and ridiculous ways, it was better to just lie back and accept my fate. At least that way, I could die with a little dignity. And so, I began my tragic life as a willing salted fish. I stopped avoiding her. I went back to the gym. She would always, coincidentally, appear on the treadmill next to me when I was halfway through my run, and then proceed to comment on my heart rate and pace with the eye of a professional trainer. I went back to the library. She would always, coincidentally, sit across from me while I was studying code, and then, with an expression of pure innocence, ask for my help with some business model problem that I couldn't even understand the question of. I was completely numb. I started to treat her as an unavoidable natural disaster, like a hurricane or an earthquake. You can't fight it. You just have to endure it. I thought my life would continue in this bizarre state of tranquility until I had passed all my certification exams and could finally take my mom and disappear. But I was being naive again. I had forgotten about the two biggest wild cards in this book. The two scumbags who had been repeatedly crushed by the queen and were now being pushed to the brink of desperation. A cornered dog will leap over a wall, and cornered scumbags will resort to anything. Their final, desperate act came sooner and was more despicable than I had anticipated. That afternoon, I was in the library cramming for my upcoming IT certification exam when my phone started vibrating uncontrollably. It was an unknown number. I didn't want to answer, but it kept calling again and again, like a summons from the Grim Reaper. A terrible feeling washed over me. I stepped out into the hallway and answered the call. A cold, smug male voice came through the speaker. It was Leo Kane. "Ethan Vance, right?" he said. "Your mother is with us now." Boom. My mind exploded. I felt all the blood rush to my head, then instantly freeze into ice. What? What do you want? I heard my own voice trembling. "We don't want much." The voice on the other end changed. It was Julian Croft's sickeningly insincere tone. "We just invited your mother over for a cup of tea, and we'd like you to pass a message to Ms. Muir for us. Tell her to come to the abandoned warehouse on the west side. Alone. If we see any cops or anyone else, we can't guarantee that your mother's old bones will leave this place in one piece." Beep, beep, beep. He hung up. I stood there, holding my phone, my body ice cold. I had never hated my own powerlessness so much. I had never hated this damned, melodramatic world so much. Bastards. My mind was screaming. Those scum. Those degenerates. They went after my mom. How dare they? For the first time, I felt a genuine, murderous rage. I may have traveled into this world, but Maria's kindness to me was real. I truly saw her as my mother. I didn't care about anything else. I shoved my books into my bag and sprinted out of the library like a madman. I had to save my mom. I was going to tear those two animals apart. But just as I reached the street, trying to hail a cab, a black Maybach screeched to a halt in front of me with a perfect drift. The window rolled down, revealing Isabel Muir's beautiful face, which was so cold it looked like it could chip. She looked at my disheveled state, my face red with anger and panic. There was no surprise in her eyes, only a bone-deep chill. She said only two words, "Get in." I didn't know how she knew, and I wasn't in the mood to ask. I pulled open the door and jumped in. The car shot forward like an arrow released from a bow. The atmosphere inside was suffocatingly tense. My body was rigid, my hands gripping my backpack so tightly my knuckles were white. My eyes were fixed on the scenery flashing by outside the window. My mind was in chaos. What do I do? What should I do? There are two of them, and they're definitely prepared. If I just rush in there empty-handed, I'll be committing suicide. But my mom is in their hands. Call the police? No, they said no cops. If they get desperate, I can't even imagine. Just as my mind was a tangled mess of fear and confusion, the woman who had been silent beside me finally spoke. Her voice was as cool as ever, but it carried a strange, calming power. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." I turned to look at her. She wasn't looking at me. She was on her phone, issuing a series of commands with chilling calm and efficiency. "Anna, tell the legal department to submit all the evidence of commercial crimes we've compiled on Julian Croft and Leo Kane to the police and the DA's office." "Yes, right now." "Frank, you take a team and secure the perimeter from the east gate. Don't let them have any chance to escape. David, you take the second team and move in through the ventilation ducts on the west side. Pinpoint the hostage's location and be ready to move in. Remember, I want them alive. But if they so much as touch a hair on the hostage's head, you have my permission to use any means necessary." She issued one command after another, clear and decisive, with the absolute control of a master strategist. Listening to her, I was completely dumbfounded, like a country bumpkin watching a sci-fi movie for the first time. I stared at this woman I thought I knew, completely stunned. What was happening? She was already prepared for this. From the sound of it, she not only knew these two scumbags would do something desperate, but she even knew exactly which abandoned warehouse they would choose. And who are Frank and David? They sound like mob enforcers. They must be tough. This isn't just corporate warfare anymore. This is a straight-up action movie. A simple guy who just wants to pass an IT exam. What kind of divine battle have I gotten myself into? I felt like my entire worldview was being shattered and rebuilt over and over. And this woman beside me, who I thought was just a typical ruthless CEO, was shrouded in a mysterious fog. I couldn't see through it all. The car finally stopped in front of the dilapidated, abandoned warehouse. Isabel didn't let me get out. She just turned to look at me, her tone leaving no room for argument. You stay in the car. Don't go anywhere. With that, she pushed open the door and got out. Her slender figure, clad in a red power suit, walked alone towards the massive, gaping entrance of the warehouse, which looked like the mouth of a giant beast. Her silhouette was resolute and deadly, like a queen marching into battle. I sat in the car, watching her disappear into the darkness, my heart leaping into my throat. She's going in alone. Is she crazy? Even if she has people stationed outside, there are two desperate madmen in there. She's a woman, going in there all by herself. What if? I couldn't let myself think about it. Without a second thought, I yanked open the car door and ran after her. I couldn't let her go in there alone and take that risk. No matter what, this happened because of her. My mom was suffering in her place. As a son, as a man, I had to go in. I burst into the factory. The light was dim, and the air was thick with the smell of rust and dust. I immediately saw the scene in the center of the vast space. My mom was tied to a pillar, her mouth covered with duct tape, her face a mask of terror. Julian Croft and Leo Kane were standing on either side of Isabel, each holding a gleaming knife. Isabel Muir, you actually dared to come alone. Julian stared at her, his eyes filled with a crazed, venomous hatred. Leo, on the other hand, looked grief-stricken. Ms. Muir, why would you do this to me? I did so much for you. Why couldn't you even see me? I watched this tense standoff, my palms sweating. I was about to grab a loose brick and charge in, but Isabel's reaction once again surpassed all expectations. Mine and the two scumbags. She looked at their pathetic, rabid dog act, and her face showed no fear. She even let out a small laugh, a laugh full of contempt and pity. The two of you think you're worthy of negotiating with me. Her voice was quiet, but it was like a sharp, icy blade that stabbed right into the fragile egos of the two men. Just as Julian, enraged and humiliated, was about to lunge at her, there were a series of loud bangs. From all sides of the factory, every window and door was simultaneously smashed open by a group of burly men in black tactical gear. They moved with practiced, military precision. In less than 10 seconds, they had the two stunned scumbags pinned to the ground. The knives clattered onto the concrete floor. It was over, so fast that it felt like I was watching a perfectly choreographed movie. And I, just like the two men on the ground, was nothing more than a dumbfounded spectator from beginning to end. My mom was rescued, completely unharmed. The two scumbags were taken away by the police and Isabel's security team. Awaiting them were the full penalties of the law and Isabel's endless corporate retaliation. Their lives were, for all intents and purposes, over. On the ride back, my mom, exhausted from the shock, had already fallen asleep in the back seat. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the city lights beginning to twinkle on, my mind still a complete blank. Everything that had happened today had been too much to process. I turned my head to look at the woman who was focused on driving. She had changed out of her red battle armor and was now wearing a simple beige trench coat, all her makeup washed away. The streetlights cast a soft glow on her face, outlining her perfect profile. She no longer looked like a ruthless queen, but like an ordinary girl who could feel tired. She seemed to sense my gaze and glanced over at me. For the first time, her perpetually icy eyes showed a deep weariness I had never seen before and an indescribable vulnerability. You were scared, weren't you? She asked softly. I nodded, then shook my head. I didn't know what to say, but she seemed to know what I wanted to ask and spoke first. In my last life, she said, this is where they killed me. My company went bankrupt. My father died of a heart attack on the operating table from shock. They wanted to violate me here. While they were fighting over who would be first, I jumped from the roof of that building. It hurt so much. Her voice was calm, as if she were telling someone else's story. but I could clearly see that the hand gripping the steering wheel was trembling slightly. I froze, staring at her in disbelief. Last life. A tidal wave crashed through my mind. What did she say? Could it be? Isabel looked at my shocked and confused eyes and gave a small, sad laugh, full of self-deprecation. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I crawled back from hell, filled with hatred, thinking that revenge was all I had left in this life. I schemed against everyone. I was suspicious of everyone. My world was completely dark. She paused, pulling the car over to the side of the road. She turned to look at me seriously, and for the first time, her beautiful eyes reflected my own image. Until you showed up, you were like an idiot. You clearly had the looks to make anyone go crazy for you, but all you thought about was how to hide away and quietly study and work out. You were clean, focused, always striving to be better. You were like a light, a clean light that suddenly broke through my dark, hate-filled world. You're the one who made me feel that this terrible world maybe wasn't so bad after all. I don't remember how I got home. Isabel's words were like an atomic bomb that had detonated in my brain, shattering all the perceptions and beliefs I had built up over the past 6 months. I lay on my small twin bed, sleepless all night. I finally understood. I understood her bizarre behavior, her intense interest in an insignificant background character like me. It wasn't that she was crazy. She was just trying, in her own way, to get closer to the only source of light in her world. And I, the fool who had only ever tried to run from her, had repeatedly treated her like a monster. For the first time, I felt something for this woman I had always kept at a distance. It was an emotion called heartache. The next day, I didn't go to the gym or the library. For the first time ever, I went to her office on my own initiative. She seemed surprised to see me. I walked up to her, looked at her face, which was a little pale from lack of sleep, and summoned up all the courage I had. Ms. Muir, your world shouldn't just be about hatred. It should have other colors too. She froze. I continued, I might not be some great light, but my mom made her famous pot roast this morning. She said you liked it, so she saved a double portion for you. As I finished speaking, I saw her eyes, which had been dull with exhaustion, instantly light up. For the first time, I didn't have snarky internal monologue. I didn't think about running away. I just thought that maybe, just this once, being the male lead for this broken queen might not be such a bad thing after all. Isabel looked at me, at my face, which was a picture of clumsy sincerity. Her perpetually icy eyes began to mist over with a warm dampness. She stood up, walked around her desk, and before I could react, she wrapped her arms around me in a tight embrace. It was a hug full of exhaustion and reliance, like someone who had been walking in the dark for a very, very long time and had finally found a safe harbor to rest. She buried her face in my chest, her voice choked with an emotion she couldn't hold back. Ethan, thank you. I stood there, frozen, feeling her soft, trembling body in my arms. Slowly, I raised my hands and awkwardly rested them on her back, patting her gently. The sunlight streamed through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, enveloping both of us in a warm, golden glow. Maybe, starting today, this melodramatic world could have a not-so-melodramatic ending after all.